I'm Shauna from Heritage Springs, and I'm going to show you how to repot an orchid, clip the roots, and clean it up. So this is a phaleonopsis. As you can see, it's not in bloom, and also as you can see, it has a lot of roots. And see, some of them don't look so great. That's normal. They get dehydrated and die. So anyway, I'm just gonna take this out of here. This plant got knocked over. This orchid, when it was in bloom, was so heavy. It was very top heavy. And anyway, it got knocked off. The little ladder that it's on and the pot broke. So, okay, and the roots have also grown to the side of the pot. This happens sometimes with orchids. Okay, so that's out of there. These roots in particular look fantastic. You can see like they're nice and full and green. And then some of them don't look so great. Some are a little dehydrated, and that's okay. We're just gonna cut those off. So just kind of like to look to make sure there's no bugs or anything on. Oh, there are a little bit of bugs. That's okay, I got them. I don't think it's infested or anything. It just had a couple of bug visitors. But anyway, just like to look and see what's going on with the orchid. Make sure that everything looks good. So I thought this was a good time to do this because it wasn't in bloom, but it looks like it is starting to bloom here. There's like a little, can you see that? There's a little bud coming out, and actually now that I look, this has a little flower bud here. That's okay. I'm still gonna do it because this really needs to be done. I know I've mentioned I was deployed last year, and so none of my orchids got repotted last year. My husband did a great job of taking care of them, but I was not about to teach him how to repot orchids over the Zoom. Okay, so see, this was in, you can see this was planted in sphagnum moss, which kept it a little bit too wet. A lot of these roots are just mushy and dead. It's okay, I mean, it's still doing fine. Orchids are epiphytes, so they don't have to have their roots in their pots or in any medium even, obviously, since this one's doing fine without that. Epiphytes are plants that grow on other plants, like on trees or, really on anything. Mostly they grow on trees in the wild. I've made like grapevine wreaths that have had epiphytes in them. I had a whole collection one time of like cork that I put epiphytes on. I had orchids on there and rabbit's foot ferns, and that was really pretty. So all I'm doing is just cutting off these mushy dead roots that I showed you. Some of them are okay. Some of them are discolored. Like this one is discolored a little bit, but when I feel it, it doesn't feel mushy. It feels fine. And you don't want to squeeze them hard. You don't want to damage them. But just, you know, lightly touch them and see if they're viable roots or not. And if they're not, cut them off. It doesn't hurt the plant to cut those roots off. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. If you can, I don't know if you can see it or not. Hopefully you can see that. So just kind of going through here. I think most of these that are in the inside of this moss are gonna be probably dead. I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do with this once I get it done, because I think it's probably gonna be, I mean, there's too many roots to go back in that pot it was in. And I guess I should have thought this through better, because I don't think I have a bigger orchid pot right now. I don't know, maybe I'll hang it on the wall or something like that and let it live its epiphyte life. As long as it's humid, they do pretty well without soil. I don't know if you've ever seen like those wooden pots that look like little crates. You can put them in there with a little bit of moss, but mostly you want to use orchid bark. In fact, I'm not sure why this was in moss. I'm guessing I bought it this way. I don't usually put my orchids in moss because of this. They get too wet and they rot. I normally put them in orchid bark, which keeps them very happy. And then the other thing I do, everybody has their own way of doing their orchids, and I'm sure people are going to be passionately opposed to this particular method, but I always keep a plastic saucer under my orchids and I have it filled with water. Because most of my orchids, like I said, they're in bark, so they're not really going to draw up that moisture from the saucer, but at the same time it provides a little extra humidity around the orchid, and my orchids do great. Even this one, which, I mean, I know it's got a lot of mushy dead roots in here, but this orchid, it's already blooming. It's going to bloom again this year, this season I should say, and the leaves look good. I mean, this one is an old leaf. It looks a little dehydrated, but it still has color. I'm gonna leave it on here. I'll wipe these off with like a damp paper towel because they're a little bit dusty. And this one I think probably has a little bit of weather damage on the tip. Some of my orchids got too cold in here, but overall this orchid is, I mean, it's very healthy, and it's gonna have 2 stems. So it has one growing out this side here, and then it's gonna have another one growing out this side here. You can see that, like that. So it'll be flowering from 2 different sides. And most of the time, when you buy orchids, they're much more expensive if they have 2 points that they're flowering from. So if you live in Virginia or New York, central New York at least, they have Wegmans grocery stores, and that is probably I don't know, it's my favorite place to buy orchids. I love to buy orchids there because they are really inexpensive for a phaleonopsis, for like a, one that's in a 4-inch pot or so. They're usually like 20 bucks. And then if you get a smaller one, they're like 15, but they're super pretty. You can get all different colors. You're not gonna get like any super exotic ones. So occasionally I do spend, more than that, I should say, on an orchid like from a greenhouse or something like that. But for the most part, my orchid fix I get at Wegmans grocery store. And I don't know, there's probably other grocery stores around the country that are near you that do the same thing. But when you're buying an orchid, what you want to look for is you don't want all the buds to be flowering. You want some buds to be still closed up. Let me show you. I just bought an orchid. I can show you this one. I did not get this from Wegmans. This is one of the ones that I got from a greenhouse. But, okay, so this is what I look for when I buy an orchid. I want there to be nice green leaves, preferably an even number on each side. This has 3 leaves on each side. Bonus points for 2 stems. And then when I'm looking at the flowers, like, okay, you can see that like there's buds that haven't opened up yet on this one. There's like 3 on this side and 1 on this side that haven't opened up yet. Normally I go for more that haven't opened, but this orchid was so pretty that I couldn't pass it up. And so, anyway, I'll show you that. Actually, hang on just a second. Okay, so I just got this one. This is a Wegmans orchid. And first of all, I mean, look at that color. It's bright, like yellowish green with hot pink middle. And then the leaves look fantastic. The leaves look great. It's got 2 stems. So there's one coming up here, one right here. You can see that the buds on this stem have not even started to open yet. This one, like, look at that. It's got branches coming up off the stem. None of those buds have opened. And then even on this top part, there's a bunch of buds that haven't opened yet. So this orchid was $15. It's a smaller one. I think it's probably in, I don't know, like maybe 3-inch diameter pot. But, oh, and it is all sphagnum in there, so I probably should repot this. But it's a great orchid. It's beautiful. And yeah, 15 bucks. And I hate to shop for anything. I don't know. Groceries might be the one exception, only because I can go to Wegmans and buy myself a present. But yeah, I don't like to shop. So when I do have to shop, I like to get an orchid to compensate for the pain of shopping. So anyway, little tip on where to buy orchids, I guess. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all of the dead pieces. I'm going to try to wiggle out some more of the sphagnum moss from the middle, just because I don't really love having it in there next to the roots. I like having a little bit of sphagnum in there because the bark does dry out pretty quickly. But I like it interspersed with bark. I don't like it just to be, see, look how, like, those are all dead. Anything that was encased in the sphagnum moss is pretty much not viable any longer. And you can know when, you can tell when they're dead. It's like they're papery, the roots are papery. You can fold them in your hand, or they're mushy. They're definitely not any good anymore. So I'm just gonna clip these last few. And we'll call it good. And then some of these roots, like, you can see, like, this one looks okay up to this point, and then it's like a little broken. Just cut the end of it off. You don't have to cut the whole root off. If some of it's viable, just leave the rest of it in there. Okay. So that looks pretty good. That's what we're left with. And then, I don't know, these roots are actually really pretty. I like them a lot. So I think what I'm gonna do is, I do have some of those wooden crates out in the shed. I think I'm gonna get one and put some bark in it. Actually, you know what? I'll just go get one, and then I'll show you how to pot it up. Okay, so I ran out to the shed and I got one of these orchid crates. This is big enough for this orchid. It's probably, I don't know, 8 inches across, I would guess. And it has a little bit of sphagnum in the bottom. Usually I put a little sphagnum because you can see like how big these holes are. The bark just falls through. And also, like I said, it helps retain a little bit of moisture. So these usually come, if you buy these, they'll usually come with like a metal hanger that you twist into these little, I don't know, holes on the side. What are these things? I don't even know what they are. I don't like those very much. They're okay, but they just, I prefer, if I'm gonna hang them at all, I'll use some like fishing line or something, but I'm not gonna hang this one. I'm just going to set it back where it was. Okay, so I've just put a little bit of sphagnum in the very bottom, and then I have some orchid mix here that I'm gonna use. And it's, this is specifically for phaleonopsis orchids. I don't know that it really matters. It's just bark with a little bit of, it has a little bit of perlite in there, it looks like. And then I'm gonna clean these leaves up a little bit. We have well water here, and we have a UV light. I think that's what it is, a UV light in the filter, and it's really good water, but it's pretty high in calcium, and every once in a while my plants get a little spotty. So plus there's a little bit of dust on the leaves, and it just makes it look prettier. You can buy leaf cleaner. You also can buy like leaf shine. I personally don't love the leaf shine. It leaves like a kind of like a waxy, sort of slimy, sticky residue on your plants. But I guess it depends on what you're going for. So, okay, so this looks pretty good. The leaves look nice. The roots look good. And you want to do this, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but you want to do this once a year when your orchid is dormant. I missed the boat on that. This orchid is not dormant. It's getting ready to flower, but that's okay. I think it'll forgive me. It's a pretty healthy orchid overall, so I don't think I'm going to do too much damage to it. I don't want all the roots in here. I want some of them going over the side, just because, first of all, they weren't in the substrate before and they were doing great, so I don't really want to tempt fate. And then secondly, they're kind of cool looking, so. But I am going to anchor this orchid in here with some potting mix. And I'm just going to put this bark, work it down in between the roots here. And then I'll have to find a big enough plastic saucer for this to sit in. Because like I said, I do like my orchids to sit in a tray of water. That's just how I do it. I don't even know why I started doing that. I think it was kind of like a take on the pebble tray. Have you heard about that? Where people put a tray of pebbles under their plants with some water in it. And I just didn't really love that idea. If it works for you, fantastic. I didn't really want to mess around with pebbles and algae and whatever. So I just started using water and it works great. People swear by different things. Like, I know some people like to water their orchids with an ice cube or a couple of ice cubes once a week. And then, you know, there's a whole bunch of people that get really angry about that because orchids don't get watered by ice cubes in nature. But, I mean, if it didn't work, people wouldn't be doing it, right? I don't personally do it, but it works for some people. So there's more than one right way to do plants. Gonna try to, there. This is, I mean, I don't know, this probably isn't the best setup for this one. It's a little, it's a big orchid. It really is. It probably even needs like a bigger pot than this, but for right now, this will work. Just gonna fill in with as much of this as I can around the edges. Try to get it to sit still in here, and then I am gonna put some of the sphagnum, not the part that has like dead roots in it, but some of the fresher sphagnum that I took off the very edges. I'm gonna put that just around the top. And that's just gonna hold in a little bit of the moisture. Orchids love humidity, and this is a pretty humid room, but it's all artificial. I have the humidifier going, and you know, I try to keep it warm and misty in here, and so it's not like at the level of humidity that it probably really should be at. In fact, my hydrometer broke. I've ordered a couple more, so I'm not even sure what the humidity is in here, but it feels good to me. I hope it feels good to the plants. But anyway, I just like to kind of help them along a little bit. There we go. So I think that looks pretty good. We've got a little bit of sphagnum on the top there, the orchid bark in the middle, and then the orchid's a little flop to the side, but that's okay. That's kind of how it would be in nature anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back and see how it does. I don't remember what color this one is, so I'm kind of excited to see it flower. I have one orchid that is just, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I bought it at a greenhouse in Maryland that specializes in orchids, and it is a red phaleonopsis, not like pinkish red or purplish red. It is pure red phaleonopsis, and it is so pretty, and I have not seen it bloom since I got it. The leaves look great. I probably should feed it. Maybe that would help it. Most of my orchids bloom every year, or sometimes even twice a year, but that one is being stubborn. anyway, so. Okay, well that's it. If you have orchids to repot and you have questions and you're not really sure how to do it, just let me know. It's really not hard. I taught my girls how to do this when they were like 8 and 9 years old, and they usually help me when I do my orchids. So I promise you can do it. It's super easy. But yeah, if you have questions, just drop them in the comments below, and I am happy to help you out.